Good evening, everyone. Let's start the music. My name is Saman Giraud and I'll be your host this evening, reading for you from 1001 Nights. The lovely music you hear in the background is from our lovely colleague, Kamyab Sadiri, and you can find his information on our Facebook page. We're trying something new here. Hi, I don't know who tuned in, but somebody did tune in. I noticed you. I see you. So if you've never tuned into our show before, these are the original 1001 stories translated by Sir Richard Burton. And we started reading them in March, and it is now almost November. And we will be reading, very probably, for the next 4 or 5 years. So let's hope the internet is not going to break down, right? I hope your day went well. And if it didn't, which can happen, rest assured you're not alone in this. The bad days will pass, the good days will come again. That's just how it is, right? Right, I'm just going to share this quickly. Hi, Anita. I saw you too. Okay. What was actually planned for tonight is we are inviting guest readers from all over the world to read for us anything they like, actually, that is dear to their hearts. And tonight we were expecting Saladin to read for us. He's unfortunately having some tech issues, and that's why I'm tuning in, so I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind. And tonight's story, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, is about two beautiful people, a beautiful princess and a beautiful prince. And both didn't want to get married. They don't know each other. They did not want to get married, and both of their fathers, like respective fathers, actually put them in a tower by themselves and said, you know what, if you don't want to get married, you'll stay in that tower and you don't leave the palace. And what happens then is the prince was visited by an ifritit, I guess, ifrita, and the princess was visited by an ifrit. And what is an ifrit? So we explained it pretty much at the beginning of these readings and didn't do it later on. So I Googled a picture and I tried to find something, a picture of an ifrit the way I imagine it. And let me just quickly give you a definition. An ifrit comes from the word Arabic, it is Arabic actually, and it's a powerful type of demon in Islamic mythology, often associated with the underworld and with the spirits of the dead. Okay, oh my God. So here's the picture of an ifrit. Let me put this on. I hope you can see this. If it's not, oh, that's too bright. Hold on. How can I do this? Oh yeah, there you go. So this is the picture of an ifrit, a demon of Arabic mythology. It's quite big though. All right, we are going to start tonight's reading. Where's my book? There is my book. And I guess I'm just going to keep sharing that later on. Okay, so let's get comfortable. Now when it was the 178th night, she said, "It hath reached me, auspicious king, that Dahnash spoke thus to Maimuna. I accept, O my lady, these conditions." Then he resumed, "Know, O my mistress, that I come tonight from the islands of the inland sea in the parts of China, which are the realms of King Kayur, Lord of the islands and the seas and the 7 palaces. There I saw a daughter of his, than whom Allah hath made none fairer in her time. I cannot picture her to thee, for my tongue would fail to describe her with her due of praise. But I will name to thee a somewhat of her charms by way of approach. Now her hair is like the nights of disunion and separation, and her face like the days of union and delectation. And right well hath the poet said when picturing her, she dispread the locks from her head one night, showing 4-fold nights into one night run. And she turned her visage towards the moon, and 2 moons showed at moment one. She hath a nose like the edge of the burnished blade, and cheeks like purple wine, or anemone's blood red. Her lips as coral and cornelian shine, and the water of her mouth is sweeter than old wine. Its taste would quench hell's fiery pain. Her tongue is moved by wit of high degree, and ready repartee. Her breast is a seduction to all that see it. Glory be to him who fashioned it and finished it. And joined thereto are 2 upper arms, smooth and rounded, even as saith of her the poet Al-Walahan. She hath wrists which, did her bangles not contain, would run from out her sleeves in silver rain. She hath breasts like 2 globes of ivory, from whose brightness the moons borrow light, and a stomach with little waves, as it were a figured cloth of the finest Egyptian linen made by the Copts, with creases like folded scrolls, ending in a waist slender, past all power of imagination, based upon back parts like a hillock of blown sand, that force her to sit when she would leave stand, and awaken her when she fain would sleep, even as saith of her and describeth her the poet. She hath those hips conjoined by thread of waist, hips that over me and her too tyrannize. My thoughts they daze whenever I think of them, and weigh her down whenever she would uprise. And those back parts are upborne by thighs smooth and round, and by a calf like a column of pearl, and all this reposeth upon 2 feet, narrow, slender, and pointed like spear blades, the handiwork of the protector and requiter. I wonder how, of their littleness, they can sustain what is above them. But I cut short my praises of her charms, fearing lest I be tedious. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now when it was the 179th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Ifrit Dahnash bin Shamhurish said to the Ifritah Maymunah, Of a truth, I cut short my praises, fearing lest I be tedious. Now when Maymunah heard the description of that princess and her beauty and loveliness, she stood silent in astonishment. Whereupon Dahnash resumed, The father of this fair maiden is a mighty king, a fierce knight, immersed night and day in fray and fight, for whom death hath no fright, and the escape of his foe no dread, for that he is a tyrant masterful, and a conqueror irresistible, lord of troops and armies, and continents and islands, and cities and villages, and his name is King Ghayur, lord of the islands and of the seas and of the 7 palaces. Now he loveth his daughter, the young maiden whom I have described to thee, with dearest love, and for affection of her he hath heaped together the treasures of all the kings, and built her therewith 7 palaces, each of a different fashion. The first of crystal, the second of marble, the third of china steel, the fourth of precious stones and gems of price, the fifth of porcelain and many-hued onyxes and ring bezels, the sixth of silver and the 7th of gold. And he hath filled the 7 palaces with all sorts of sumptuous furniture, rich silken carpets and hangings and vessels of gold and silver, and all manner of gear that kings require, and hath bidden his daughter to abide in each by turns for a certain season of the year. And her name is the Princess Budur. Now when her beauty became known, and her name and fame were bruited abroad in the neighbouring countries, all the kings sent to her father to demand her of him in marriage, and he consulted her on the matter. But she disliked the very word wedlock with a manner of abhorrence, and said, O my father, I have no mind to marry, no, not at all, for I am a sovereign lady and a queen, suzerain ruling over man, and I have no desire for a man who shall rule over me. And the more suits she refused, the more her suitors' eagerness increased, and all the royalties of the inner islands of China sent presents and rarities to her father, with letters asking her in marriage. So he pressed her again and again with advice on the matter of espousals, but she ever opposed to him refusals, till at last she turned upon him angrily and cried, O my father, if thou name matrimony to me once more, I will go into my chamber and take a sword, and fixing its hilt in the ground, will set its point to my waist. Then will I press upon it till it come forth from my back, and so slay myself. Now when the king heard these words, the light became darkness in his sight, and his heart burned for her as with a flame of fire, because he feared lest she should kill herself. And he was filled with perplexity concerning her affair and the kings, her suitors. So he said to her, If thou be determined not to marry, and there be no help for it, abstain from going and coming in and out. Then he placed her in a house, and shut her up in a chamber, appointing 10 old women as duennas to guard her, and forbade her to go forth to the 7 palaces. Moreover, he made it appear that he was incensed against her, and sent letters to all the kings, giving them to know that she had been stricken with madness by the jinns. And it is now a year since she hath thus been secluded. Then continued the Ifrit Dahnash, addressing the Ifritah Maymunah, And I, O my lady, go to her every night, and take my fill of feeding my sight on her face. And I kiss her between the eyes, yet of my love to her I do her no hurt, neither mount her, for that her youth is fair, and her grace surpassing. Every one who seeth her jealouseth himself for her. I conjure thee, therefore, O my lady, to go back with me and look on her beauty and loveliness, and stature and perfection of proportion. And after, if thou wilt, chastise me or enslave me, and win to thy will, for it is thine to bid and to forbid. So saying, the Ifrit Dahnash bowed his head towards the earth and drooped his wings downwards. But Maymunah laughed at his words and spat in his face and answered, What is this girl of whom thou pratest but a potsherd wherewith to wipe after making water? Foh, by Allah, O accursed, I thought thou hadst some wondrous tale to tell me, or some marvellous news to give me. How would it be if thou were to sight my beloved? Verily, this night I have seen a young man whom, if thou saw though but in a dream, thou wouldst be palsied with admiration, and spittle would flow from thy mouth. Asked the Ifrit, and who and what is this youth? And she answered, Know, O Dahnash, that there hath befallen the young man the like of what thou tellest me befell thy mistress. For his father pressed him again and again to marry, but he refused, till at length his sire waxed wroth at being opposed, and imprisoned him in the tower where I dwell. And I came up tonight and saw him. Said Dahnash, O my lady, show me this youth, that I may see if he be indeed handsomer than my mistress, the Princess Budur, or not. For I cannot believe that the like of her liveth in this our age. Rejoined Maymunah, Thou liest, O accursed, O most ill-omened of marrieds and vilest of Satans. Sure am I that the like of my beloved is not in this world. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Another one. Now when it was the 180th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Ifritah Maymunah spake thus to the Ifrit Dahnash, Sure am I that the like of my beloved is not in this world. Art thou mad to fellow thy beloved with my beloved? He said, Allah upon thee, O my lady, go back with me and look upon my mistress, and after I will return with thee and look upon thy beloved. She answered, It must needs be so, O accursed, for thou art a knavish devil. But I will not go with thee, nor shalt thou come with me, save upon condition of a wager, which is this. If the lover thou lovest, and of whom thou boastest so bravely, prove handsomer than mine, whom I mentioned, and whom I love, and of whom I boast, the bet shall be thine against me. But if my beloved prove the handsomer, the bet shall be mine against thee. Quoth Dahnash the Ifrit, O my lady, I accept this thy wager, and am satisfied thereat. So come with me to the island. Quoth Maymunah, No, for the abode of my beloved is nearer than the abode of thine. Here it is, under us. So come down with me to see my beloved, and after we will go look upon thy mistress. I hear and I obey, said Dahnash. So they descended to the earth and alighted in the saloon which the tower contained. Then Maymunah stationed Dahnash beside the bed, and putting out her hand, drew back the silken coverlet from Kamar al-Zaman's face, when it glittered and glistened and shimmered and shone like the rising sun. She gazed at him for a moment, then turning sharply round upon Dahnash said, Look, O accursed, and be not the basest of madmen. I am a maid, yet my heart he hath waylaid. So Dahnash looked at the prince, and long continued gazing steadfastly on him, then shaking his head said to Maymunah, By Allah, O my lady, thou art excusable. But there is yet another thing to be considered, and this is, that the estate female differeth from the male. By Allah's might, this thy beloved is the likest of all created things to my mistress in beauty and loveliness, and grace and perfection, and it is as though they were both cast alike in the mould of seemlihead. Now when Maymunah heard these words, the light became darkness in her sight, and she dealt him with her wing so fierce a buffet on the head as well nigh made an end of him. Then quoth she to him, I conjure thee, by the light of his glorious countenance, go at once, O accursed, and bring hither thy mistress, whom thou lovest so fondly and foolishly, and return in haste, that we may lay the twain together, and look on them both as they lie asleep, side by side. So shall it appear to us which be the goodlier and more beautiful of the two. Except thou obey me this very moment, O accursed, I will dart my sparks at thee with my fire, and consume thee. Yea, in pieces I will rend thee, and into the deserts cast thee, that to stay at home and wayfarer an example thou be. Quoth Darnach, O my lady, I will do thy behests, for I know for sure that my mistress is the fairer and the sweeter. So saying, the Ifrit flew away, and Maymunah flew with him to guard him. They were absent a while, and presently returned, bearing the young lady, who was clad in a shift of fine Venetian silk, with a double edging of gold, and purfled with the most exquisite of embroidery, having these couplets worked upon the ends of the sleeves. 3 matters hinder her from visiting us, in fear of hateful, slandering envier and his hired spies. The shining light of brow, the trinket's tinkling voice, and scent of essences that tell whenever she hies. Given that she hide her brow with edge of sleeve and leave, at home her trinketry, how shall her scent disguise? And Darnach and Maymunah stinted not bearing that young lady till they had carried her into the saloon and had laid her beside the youth, Kamar al-Zaman. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. That was it for tonight. Please tune in. I think tomorrow Joanna will be reading. I will be tuning in too, to listen to the 181st night and to see who is indeed more beautiful, the prince or the princess. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Oh, thanks so much for the hearts. And the kiss, I guess. I'll send you much love. As usual, remember to go inwards instead of outwards. And I will be seeing you next week. So until then, stay well. Much love. Thank you.